Alright, so let's finish up the Fly franchise with The Fly 2, sequel to David Cronenberg's masterpiece, The Fly. And honestly, better than I expected it to be. You know, and I never hear anything about this film other than it's not as good as the original. So going into this, I expected it not to be as good as not the original, but the remake. You know what I mean? The first one. So going into it with that in mind, you know it's not going to be as good. I kind of enjoyed it. Eric Stoltz, it's pretty good in the film. He's not a bad actor. Yes, you may say that at first he may seem a little weird, but he's supposed to be portraying a 5-year-old stuck in a 20-some-year-old body. But they do say that he has the maturity and the brains of an adult because he's maturing. His body and his brains are maturing with him, but he's actually 5 years old. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But the story here is that this movie kicks off with the birth of young Martin Brundle, which I assume is a callback to Martin Delambre from Curse of the Fly, which I guess if you're going to pay homage to one of the characters, Martin is the only normal sounding one. Although you could have called him Andrew, as a advert, as sort of a adverse to Andre, or you could call him Philip, like Philippe, But Martin is kind of logical, and I do like how they call him Marty in this a couple times, and it did make me laugh when I heard him say that because if you don't know, Eric Stoltz was originally supposed to be Marty McFly, but it didn't work out. He was taking it too seriously, and even Eric Stoltz himself said he wasn't, the part wasn't for him, and they got Michael J. Fox to come in. But I just like that. They call him Marty. He got to be a Marty in a film, so, and Daphne Zaninga, which I've never been a big fan of her. Spaceballs, she's good at, she's good in this. But it's just her character on One Tree Hill. I think she was, I can't remember her name. Sophia Brooks. She was Brooks' mother. I don't really care for her on there, but she was all right here. So yes, the story is that Martin Brundle is taken in by the Bartok Institute. And yes, if every time you hear, is I got a fly in here, you heard Bartok, you think, oh, sir, so happy to see you again. Then we're on the same page. Because every time they said Bartok, all I could think was, oh, sir, so happy to see you again. Just the bat and everything. Spells just aren't what they used to, are they, master? But, yes, so yeah, his name is Bartok. And he's the villain, no surprise. So we start, he's with a birth scene. We got a double for Gina Davis, because she's not in this film. And they have her face covered. And she dies from shock after seeing that it's born to like a chrysalis thing, and then he comes out and he's a normal baby. And Stathis is there, but he disappears until later in the film, and he has an accelerated growth, this kid they named Martin. By the time he is 3 years old, he already matured to that of a 10-year-old. He makes friends with the dog they have there, but when he goes to visit it one night, it is gone. And he comes across the experiment. They've rebuilt the telepods, and they try to transport the dog, but it doesn't work, and he gets disfigured. And they say that they dealt with the dog. By the time he is 5 years old, Martin is now in his 20s. Appears to be that of in his 20s. And they decide they're going to give him, they say they're going to give him his privacy, and Bartok, was happy to see you again, gives him a bungalow for him to live in, where he says has no cameras in it. He says has no cameras in it. Remember that. He sparks a relationship with a woman named... Does it say her name? Dennis Ninga's character? No. But he sparks a romance with her. And they do have sex. And to all those out there who will wag their finger, oh, he's only a 5-year-old, they state specifically that he ages, that his body and his brain matures to that of the age that he looks. So even though he's only 5 years old, he has the mature brain of a 20-something-year-old. All right? So get off your high horses. If they said that even though he's aging, he still has the mentality of a child, which I don't think would work for this because they need his brains, to finish his father's work. I think it would be creepy, but I don't think it's creepy, all right? I don't think it's weird because they're technically both adults. I know he's only 5, but if they say that his body and mind mature at the same time, then I can't really argue because to me it just seems normal. I'm sorry. And if he wasn't mature, he wouldn't know what to do. Obviously, he knows what to do, right? Just saying. But eventually, Bartok, so happy to see you again, brings him on to help finish the telepods because they try to use it and even inanimate objects explode, which wasn't a problem in the first one, but if they've rebuilt the telepods from scratch, that could be a problem. But I always assumed, because I heard about this film before, but I always assumed they just took the telepods from Seth's loft and brought them there. Because Bartok was mentioned briefly in the first one, but eventually he and Daphne Zanunga's character, they work on it together, but then she is transferred to another place across town. And this is where it's revealed that Bartok, so happy to see you again, has been spying on them, and this leads to a full-out anger burst from Martin, where he starts to transform because of it. And this makes sense. Like, people say, oh, he just starts to transform out of nowhere, but it's his emotions. Once his emotions get the best of him, he starts to transform, and he can't stop it. And it's revealed they were just waiting for him to transform, and then it's also revealed that he put a password on the computer so they can't access or use the telepods. Brilliant. Fantastic. And so he escapes to her house, and they escape from there. There is a scene that have me going, oh no, because I've seen what they did to the dog earlier. He takes a kitty, and I've seen the original. You know what happens to the cat in that one? And I thought they were going to do some kind of an homage to it, but I think this was kind of a callback to that. But he puts the cat in the telepod, and it works. And I guess she keeps the kitty. It's a kitten. But Gary Chalk is in this as like the right-hand man, the top security guard for Bartok. Oh, so happy to see you again. I love Gary Chalk. He's voiced Optimus Primal on Beast Wars and Beast Machines. So he's also in Stargate SG-1. So can't hate on Gary Chalk. But he's a bad guy in this, and he does get attacked. He doesn't die, I don't think, but he does get attacked. So they decide that they need to go see Stathis, and it's good to see him, back. But they try to. He has a fake beard with some grays in it because he's 5 years later. They make him appear older. And he's like, "Oh, your father uses acid saliva, took off my arm and my leg. We never got along. You took my woman." And it's like, okay. And he basically said, your father was obsessed with finding a cure. He tried to take your mother and fuse you three together. But, he says, here, take my car. They've been looking for her car. And they end up going back to the institution. because or no, they go to a hotel, but Martin reveals that he knows a cure. He has to. Uh, they need a human specimen to transfer the mutation onto. And I feel like Spider-Man the Animated Series took from this movie because it's very similar, and I'll explain once we get to the end. So, yes, he says that, but he doesn't want to hurt anyone. But we get to the asterisks of that later. So, Bartok, I'm so happy to see you again, kidnaps the woman. I forget her name. I'm sorry. Daphne Zaninga's character. Stupid fly. No. No. Anyway, so he goes and he ends up transforming. He puts himself in the chrysalis and, a pupus, what do you call it? Chrysalis thing. And he turns out becomes a monster. What I don't like, because they show that Martin is still in there a little bit later, but he kills this nurse lady. And I don't think there's a reason for that. Like, unless he wasn't in control at that point, but we are shown that he is somewhat in control when they send a dog after him and he pets the dog because he likes dogs. Because what I forgot to mention is that he finds out that the dog from before is still alive. And he euthanizes it with chloroform, which doesn't kill. Well, I guess maybe too much of it could kill, but it just knocks you out, right? Unless it works differently on dogs. I don't know. But he does that earlier in the film. But he shows here that he's still in there. He's petting the dog, and the dog just lays down, And we get this cool finale where he's just attacking and killing people. Maybe Gary Chalk dies. I don't know. There's so much carnage going on. But eventually, they do the sequence using Bartok. I'm so happy to see you again. And they transfer the fly genes to him. And he goes back to being human. And the password was Dad, by the way. The secret password was Dad. And it ends with them showing that they kept the Bartok, so happy to see you again, fly creature alive, and there's a little fly on the water bowl. And that's how it ends. Kind of cool ending, But, so where I say that I think that Spider-Man the Animated Series took from this is that in Season 2, which is my favorite arc of the show, by the way, the Neogenic Nightmare sequence, Spider-Man starts to lose his powers. And unlike in Spider-Man 2, which is the only thing I don't like about Spider-Man 2, they give a reason. He's starting to mutate. He grows 4 arms, he's starting to turn into a spider monster. Eventually, he fully transforms. And in this version, the Vulture has these talons that can suck the energy out of people and make them younger. That's the version in that. I don't know if that's in the comics or anything, but it hasn't been any of the movies, but that's that version of it. And they find the Tablet of Time. And they kind of use that, I think it was. And then the Neogenic Recombinator, which is the thing that, created Spider-Man but Spider-Man transfers his powers to the Vulture. The Vulture completely takes Spider-Man's powers, but he transforms in and out, and what they do is they give Spider-Man his powers back using the Recombinator thing, but they leave the mutated spider thing in the Vulture. So when he comes back later, he's going in and out of that, which is kind of cool. But I feel like they sort of took that from here. It's very similar to me. Season 2 was the best, although I did like Season 5 with the 6 Forgotten Warriors arc. I wish I could talk about those. They don't have a complete series, officially anyway, out on DVD. But, they got them on Disney Plus, I guess. But maybe I'll have to check those out. But anyway, The Fly 2 was actually pretty good. Not as good as, the David Cronenberg one. But I would say that give it a watch. It's not a bad watch. Eric Stoltzer's pretty good. Edwin Snug is pretty good. Even the guy who plays the villain is pretty good. You know, you have a human villain in this, and then you know the monster movie stuff happens towards the end. It almost feels like, oh, we have to do this, so he transforms. But you know, the effects aren't as good as the Cronenberg movie, in my opinion. But it's still not bad, and therefore I have to give The Fly 2. I have to say that The Fly 2 is pretty good. So what are your thoughts on The Fly 2? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.